that, the voice whispered. I froze, just halfway back into the banquet hall, my hand inches from the glass of pink champagne waiting at my seat. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. It had only taken me 2 minutes to step out for air. 2 minutes away from the suffocating smiles and glinting stares at my cousin Jillian's graduation party. And in that tiny sliver of quiet, a girl I didn't recognize, brunette, petite, shaking in cheap heels, had found me near the hallway and mumbled those chilling words. Your uncle told them to humiliate you tonight. She didn't wait for a reaction. She looked like she regretted even saying it and practically vanished down the corridor. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. Because deep down, I already knew. I walked back into the gold-trimmed ballroom with my head held high. My Aunt Lydia, Jillian's mom, was laughing too loudly at the main table. Uncle Darren was leaned back smugly, swirling his drink. And at the center, my perfect cousin sat in a gown that screamed money and effort, giving me a sideways look like I didn't belong. Which I didn't. That's how they made sure I always felt. I sat back down and smiled sweetly, lifted the drink in front of me, then tilted my wrist ever so slightly and set it right in front of Lydia instead. She barely noticed, too busy trying to impress the table with her rehearsed compliments and artificial tears. 15 minutes later, her screams shattered the hall like a wine glass against concrete. Lydia clawed at her chest. Her eyes were red, her mouth twisted in horror. A few guests rushed over while others backed away from the chaos. I can't breathe, she gasped. Something's wrong. What was in that? Darren stood up, so fast his chair toppled. Lydia? What the hell? But she couldn't even respond. Her head swiveled wildly, eyes bloodshot, face drenched in sweat. And suddenly, the entire table went silent. Because that's when Jillian, the golden child, looked straight at me and said what everyone was thinking. What did you do? I blinked.
Calm.
Steady. Nothing, I said. I was gone, remember? That's what made it worse. They all knew I had stepped out. Cameras had caught it. Waiters had seen it. I had no physical connection to the drink. It was already there waiting when I returned. But the truth? The truth was deeper. Older. Dirtier. And it didn't start at this party. It started a year ago. The night I walked into my uncle's office and heard him say, "She's not even real family. We're just keeping her around for guilt." But I stayed silent. I waited. I let them dig their own holes. And, tonight, I brought a shovel. It's funny how people never notice what you carry when they already assume you're invisible. The staff saw me as a quiet background. Guests thought I was just the weird cousin. Lydia never looked twice unless she wanted to borrow something. Even my own parents, well, let's just say they stopped backing me the moment I refused to follow the family script. But they didn't know I had a friend working catering tonight. They didn't know that friend had tipped me off, whispered what they heard from the kitchen. They're going to dump a mistake on you during the speeches. Something about forged college papers? A fake scandal. Darren wants to make it public. In front of everyone. That's why I had to act first. And it wasn't poison.
Please.
I wouldn't stoop that low. But that glass Lydia drank from? It had something else. Something humiliating. A little capsaicin. A little food dye. A little stimulant in just the right dose. Enough to spike her pulse, turn her skin a bright, rashy red, and send her mind spinning just long enough for the chaos to land. Not enough to kill. Just enough to expose. And when the paramedics arrived and asked what happened, and someone casually mentioned the glass of champagne, it got tested. And the test. Well, they wouldn't like where that trail led. Because that champagne had been custom ordered by Darren himself. Bottled, tagged, and delivered for special guests. With one bottle swapped. And when they realized Lydia drank her husband's glass, well, questions would get asked. And that was just the beginning. Because what I had wasn't just a revenge plan. It was a record. A trail.
Proof.
Emails. Recordings. Bank statements. a backup hard drive hidden in my purse. Tonight wasn't just a party. It was my courtroom. And I wasn't leaving until every single lie burned under the spotlight. The medics wheeled Lydia out as everyone whispered. The room's glitter dulled. The champagne stopped flowing. And the heat shifted. I felt it crawling across the backs of necks, tightening shoulders. All eyes darted, some toward me, some away. Darren paced by the head table, rubbing his face like he was buying time. Jillian stood frozen, clutching her phone, waiting for someone to tell her how to react. No one noticed me slip my phone from my bag and send the message I'd written 2 days ago. Just one line. Begin. I set it down again, calmly picked up a dinner roll, and tore off a piece. Exactly 70 seconds later, Uncle Darren's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down. His expression shifted. First confusion, then tightness in his jaw. A moment later, so did Jillian's. Then her boyfriend's. Then 2 of Darren's business associates. It was the link. An anonymous email with an attachment. A 30-second voice clip. Crisp and clear. Darren's voice, sneering, smug, caught saying, "The scholarship funds just for tax breaks. None of those kids see the money. My niece? She's just our punchline. Watch what we do to her at the party." The silence cracked like dry glass. Someone across the room gasped. One woman covered her mouth. A man shook his head, stood up, and quietly walked out. Jillian's boyfriend said it first, low but audible. "What the hell is this?" Darren's face flushed so fast it looked sunburned. "Who's playing games?" he snapped, but his voice cracked. I stayed seated. Calm. Polite. A model guest. "Is this real?" Jillian asked. "Tell me this is fake." "It's edited," Darren barked. "It's fake, whoever made it." But his words faded. Everyone knew that voice. That tone. That laugh. That was him. And the moment it played, something in the room shifted. That invisible power he carried? It cracked. I stood slowly and pushed my chair in. "I think I'll get some air." "Sit down." Darren snapped. "You think this is funny? You did this, didn't you?" I paused, turned halfway, met his eyes. "Funny? No. I don't think any of this is funny. I think it's been coming for a long time." A flash of panic flickered behind his eyes. Because he didn't know what else I had. But he would. Soon. Because that wasn't the only message I'd sent. 3 more were scheduled, every 10 minutes. All different pieces. All irrefutable. This wasn't about public embarrassment. This was dismantling, brick by brick. And the best part? I hadn't lied once. 10 minutes later, right on cue, the second recording dropped. This time, it wasn't just his voice. It was his face. A video from inside his office, clear as day. Darren sitting with a man from his finance team, casually flipping through documents labeled Charity Distribution Plan. But they were blank, except for fake signatures and doctored bank stamps. "Just scan and shred them," Darren had said on camera. "No one checks these. We say it's going to scholarships. It's actually funneling into Safe Bay Holdings. That's my wife's shell account. Tax-free, baby." Jillian's boyfriend dropped his glass. It shattered against the carpet. "Jesus, Darren," someone muttered behind me. I didn't look back. I stayed near the dessert table, nibbling a macaron like none of this involved me. Like I wasn't the one who'd organized the timer-triggered release to hit every guest's inbox simultaneously. The lawyer from Darren's firm stormed out of the room, phone to ear, red-faced. A few cousins began whispering frantically, checking their screens. My aunt wasn't back yet. She wouldn't be for a while. Doctors were still trying to figure out what caused her reaction. But if they ran blood work, they'd find nothing dangerous. Just a strange cocktail of heat and adrenaline. And that would push them to investigate the glass. Which, fun fact, had his fingerprints all over it. "Turn that off," Darren suddenly shouted, grabbing at Jillian's phone. She yanked it away. "Are you serious right now? You stole from a charity. You told me it was all real." He grabbed her wrist. Too hard. Too fast. And that's when I stepped in. Slowly. "Don't," I said softly. He spun. "You. This is all you. You planted that recording, those files, this hole. You made those recordings, Darren, I said calmly. All I did was keep them safe. Jillian's mouth parted. Her shoulders dropped. She looked at her father like she didn't recognize him. You did this, she whispered. To your own niece? I turned to her. You were part of it, Jill. You laughed when they lied about my college application. You told people I faked my internship. You sent screenshots to your friends, remember? She turned pale. I didn't know they'd go this far.
No, I said.
You just helped them start the fire. Darren lunged toward me, but 3 of his friends stepped between us. Don't touch her, one of them said. Don't make this worse. Because by now they all knew this wasn't just a public takedown. This was about everything they'd buried. And I was done being the dirt they buried it under. The 3rd message dropped at 8:42 p.m. This one didn't hit inboxes. It hit the venue's projector. Because I had planned ahead. The event planner, Melissa, owed me a favor. I'd helped her get her brother out of a nasty legal mess last year by connecting her with my friend, a junior attorney. Tonight, she returned the favor by plugging in a USB stick I gave her 2 hours before the event started. The lights dimmed. The screen behind the stage flickered. And then boom. Footage. Documents. Emails. Audio. Darren caught on a call with an investor, laughing about how he inflated his daughter's academic records to get her into an Ivy League school. Photos of altered transcripts. Emails between him and a consultant who specialized in falsifying volunteer hours. You think she got into Halstead on her own? Darren's voice rang out. Please. I bought her spot the same way I bought off the dean last year. Jillian stood frozen. The room stared at her. She looked like the floor had disappeared beneath her heels. You told me I earned it, she whispered to him, her voice barely audible. He tried to grab the mic off the stage, tried to shout over the audio, but it was too late. The guests had already seen too much. Some people stood up and left. Others were filming. And I stood at the corner of the room and finally smiled. Not a cruel smile. A tired one. A satisfied one. Because I wasn't doing this just to hurt them. I was doing it to end them. They spent years humiliating me, cutting my name from invites, calling me a charity case behind my back, telling the family I was ungrateful, unstable, unnecessary. But I had earned every single opportunity they tried to erase. And tonight, I wasn't just reclaiming space. I was erasing them. When the screen went black, there was silence. Thick. Tangible. And then, clapping. From the back. Slow, deliberate clapping. It was my mother's old friend, Lorraine. I always knew there was more to you, she said softly. And just like that, people started to move. They approached me instead of avoiding me. Asked questions. Offered support. But the best part? Someone tapped me on the shoulder and handed me a card. A man in a sharp navy suit, barely 35. I'm from Halstead's disciplinary board, he said. This changes things. Jillian gasped behind me. Darren staggered back into a chair. I didn't say a word. I just held the card, nodded once, and walked away. I didn't leave the venue right away. I went back to my table, sat down like nothing had happened, and watched my uncle's empire start to bleed from the inside. The whispers turned into phone calls. The phone calls into arguments. Jillian had run to the restroom, sobbing. Darren sat collapsed in his chair, face pale and frozen, eyes locked on his untouched glass like he could still rewrite the night if he concentrated hard enough. But the damage wasn't just reputational, because the 4th message had just gone out. The last one. The one he never saw coming. It wasn't about charity fraud, or nepotism, or public humiliation.
It was about me.
And my mother. A truth they buried 17 years ago. See, Darren wasn't just my uncle. He was my biological father. And Lydia? She'd known the entire time. My mother, his younger, brilliant assistant at the time, had been pressured into silence. Paid off. Told to disappear. But she didn't take the money. She raised me. She never told me the truth because she thought I deserved better than knowing I was a mistake they tried to erase. But last year, after my mom passed, I found the letters. The court files. The paternity test she'd never submitted. The non-disclosure Lydia had signed, agreeing to keep the truth hidden to protect Darren's family image. I had it all. And tonight, I let it speak. The video was just a photo slideshow. A young woman, my mom, holding me in her arms. Darren's car parked in the background. A letter, handwritten, begging him to do the right thing. A scanned draft of the paternity test. And finally, a statement from a lawyer confirming that no financial assistance was ever received. No contact ever made. When the projector flicked off for the last time, the room was silent. A thick, choking kind of silence. Then someone spoke.
Jillian.
She had come back. Her mascara was streaked down her cheeks, and her voice cracked. "That's not true," she whispered. He said it was a lie. He told everyone it was a lie. I looked her in the eye for the first time that night. He lied to everyone, but not anymore. She stepped back, like the air had punched her. "So you're what? My sister?" I nodded once. Half. Darren looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The man who used to smirk while I cleaned up after their parties now couldn't even lift his head. "What do you want from me?" he finally said, voice dry and broken.
Nothing, I said.
"I don't want anything from you. I never did. But now everyone knows who you are. And that's all I came for." He stood, wobbled slightly, then tried to steady himself. "You ruined us," he said. "No," I said quietly. "You did that a long time ago. I just turned on the lights." People began to leave. Quietly. Awkwardly. The caterers started packing early. Jillian was sitting again, crying softly. I picked up my clutch, slipped my phone inside, and turned to leave. But before I made it to the door, I heard someone call out behind me. "Hey." I turned. It was Jillian. She wiped her face, stood slowly. "I didn't know. I really didn't. I thought you were just weird, angry all the time. I thought you envied us." "I did envy you," I said. "I envied how easily you believed you were loved." She flinched, swallowed hard. "What happens now?" I looked at her for a long second. "That depends on you," I said. "You can keep pretending this didn't happen, or you can figure out who you are without him." I didn't wait for an answer. I stepped outside. The cool air hit my skin like freedom. The street was quiet. A few guests still lingered in the parking lot, murmuring, staring, unsure what to make of what they'd seen. But I didn't care, because for the first time in my life, I felt light. Not angry, not broken, just done. I walked down the street, heels clicking softly until my car came into view. And when I sat inside and closed the door, I exhaled. I'd gone to that graduation party expecting